The US system of checks and balances is meant to provide liberty and justice for all. But some claim it no longer works. Big business has become so influential that the reality seems now to be justice for some. And as RT's Kristine Frazow reports, it appears there's a power covering up for corporate interests.
The separation of power, a clause in the U.S. Constitution intended for these three branches of government: the President, Congress, and the court. But it could be argued that lately there's someone else in charge. It's an issue MoveOn.org is placing front and center in this full-page ad in the Washington Post, which makes no secret about its concern about the tight-knit relationship between corporate America and the Supreme Court. It calls out the Supreme Court for being too close with companies like Aetna, British Petroleum, and Goldman Sachs, and says the Supreme Court was founded to protect the American people, not big business.
Most Americans don't realize that we're getting screwed. Working people and humans, as opposed to corporations, are getting screwed, and that it's the Supreme Court, which is not elected by anybody, that's doing it.
Radio host Tom Hartman has been talking about this issue for quite some time, but it's also an issue President Obama is passionate about, even calling out the Supreme Court for their recent decision blocking the ban of political spending by corporations in candidate elections.
Last week, the Supreme Court reversed a century of law that I believe will open the floodgates for special interests, including foreign corporations, to spend without limit in our elections.
Take a look closer, and there's Justice Samuel Alito shaking his head and mouthing the words, "not true." The Move On ad specifically calls out Justices Roberts and Alito.
We've had law in this country that says that if corporations give money to politicians, they go to jail and the politician goes to jail. That's stare decisis. That's established law. And Alito and Roberts overthrew that in Citizens United.
Part of those concerned point out potential future cases to be heard by the High Court. Already late last month, the Supreme Court heard arguments in a case involving genetically engineered products, specifically a breed of pesticide-resistant alfalfa, being banned from the U.S. farming industry. It was a ban corporate giant Monsanto is against. The case will be decided in June, and those in favor of the ban are not optimistic, based on some close ties between the company and the court.
And frankly, you know, it needs to be said, they do have a friend on the High Court, and it's Chief Justice Thomas, who is a former Monsanto attorney.
As the lines get more and more blurry, Hartman foresees a steady increase in power of this, which could offset the balance.
If we continue down that road, we're going to end up with a country more like what Mussolini envisioned than what Jefferson envisioned.
In Washington, Kristine Frazow, RT.